Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. Lots of interesting things we're taking a look at this morning. First of all, Donald Trump racking up some endorsements in Florida that are pretty embarrassing for Ron DeSantis. And also a new poll out on the Democratic primary side that I think a lot of folks will be surprised at, including the current occupant of the White House. So we'll break that down for you as well. We've got new details about the Kevin McCarthy debt ceiling proposal. Is that going to be a go or no go? I'm going to say no go, but we'll give you those details as well. Some developments with regards to the Supreme Court. So number one, another wrinkle of Dianne Feinstein being unable to do her job. It really limits what Democrats can do with regards to the ethics complaints against Justice Thomas. So that's one piece. The other piece is the Supreme Court pushing off a decision on what they're going to do about the abortion pill. So we've got that for you. Also, Iowa passing a new child labor law. This is the latest state in what has become a trend nationwide. Saagar's taking a look at some UFO footage and testimony.
Big hearing yesterday.
I'll let him break that down for me and for all of you as well. And Grant Paulson, someone I actually grew up with, he's going to be taking a look at whether the Saudis are trying to buy the Washington football team, which would really be something.
Great.
So we'll get all the details there and find out what the heck exactly is going on. But before any of that, we have a bit of an ask for you guys this morning because we are working very hard to build a new and very beautiful set.
Yes, we've talked quite a bit here about that. No, it's not about Spotify this time. We promise. Look, we've always promised to be upfront with everybody, our premium members, with the audience. The lights for the new studio just arrived. We've had to put down significant amounts of cash, and this is the biggest expense that we have ever made in the history of Breaking Point. So I just want to be upfront here that every dollar of your hard-earned money that you've helped us with has gone towards the studio. And Jen, just because of the significant amount of expenses that we're facing in the last couple of months, if you can help us out, especially by becoming a yearly or a lifetime member, we would deeply appreciate it. breakingpoints.com. And yeah, I mean, we can just promise you, as we are at this point, like the money is going towards our staff, our contributors, control room, new equipment, new studio to improve the quality of the show, not only just for you, but I think really for more people. You know, so many of you tell us about how much the production value so much matters to you, and newsflash, production value costs a ton of money.
Yeah.
So anyway, we appreciate you, and we thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll just to add to that, one thing that'll be cool is the new set should be ready right around our 2-year anniversary of the show.
Exactly on our 2-year anniversary.
Which is kind of cool and, you know, kind of fortuitous, and we didn't exactly plan it out that way, so it's neat that it's coming together in that way. And also, listen, we're looking forward to 2024. We want to build on a product that is going to be great. Obviously, for you guys, you're our first and foremost priority, but also to try to build a bigger audience and expand the reach of the show so that it can have even more impact. So if you're able to help us out with that, we greatly appreciate it. Promise we'll be putting it to very good and very immediate use that you'll be able to see really shortly.
Breakingpoints.com. If you can. All right, let's go ahead and start with the show. Just an absolutely amazing statistic, which will surprise nobody who watches this show, but will surprise many people in the Republican establishment. Trump is wiping the floor with Ron DeSantis in endorsements. Not only endorsements from elected officials, GOP nationwide, but also in his own home state of Florida. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This was accurate as of Wednesday night. In terms of GOP presidential endorsements from either congressmen, governors, or other statewide or national elected officials, Donald Trump has now racked up 61 presidential endorsements, actually 63 as of this morning because of some late-breaking developments, and now 3 endorsements for Governor Ron DeSantis, including people like Chip Roy and a few other members of Congress, but those who are actually really on the other side of Trump's ire. Not saying they aren't important, just noting just an overall number figure. But really, a certain incident sticks out more than any about why people who are even representing the state of Florida are not going with Ron DeSantis. And it actually speaks very much to his own political abilities as a politician, not just at the national level in the way you might think about it, like speaking, but in the wheeling and dealing from behind the scenes. This specifically involved Greg Steube. He's a congressman from Florida. He's a Republican. Let's go put this up there on the screen. He actually endorsed Donald Trump immediately after a meeting with Ron DeSantis. This is as big as an FU as there is. And here's what he had to say. They actually asked him, like, why did you do this? He says, quote, DeSantis never once reached out to me during my 5 years in Congress, nor replied to my multiple attempts to connect. Stubbe recalled a recent news conference dealing with damage from Hurricane Ian, where the governor's aides initially invited him to stand along DeSantis, only to then tell him he would not be part of the event whenever he showed up.
Oof.
Trump, on the other hand, was the first person that Stubbe remembers calling him in the ICU to wish him well after he was injured in a January tree trimming incident. To this day, I have not heard from Governor DeSantis, he says. Things suddenly changed last week when Trump started rolling out Florida congressional leaders' endorsements. He says, quote, for the first time ever, I hear from DeSantis's political person. For Stubbe, the outrage was too little, too late. He continues to have sharp words for DeSantis, criticizing his robust political travel schedule amid a busy legislative season. Floridians want him focused on Florida. I mean, look, when you've got your home state, and this isn't just one guy, just so people know, like we've got significant numbers. Here's the endorsement that I referenced, just going to put this up there, specifically about that. He even literally says Trump is the only person that can reverse the disastrous policies of the Biden administration. And in the tweet, Krystal, that he announced, he said, just had a great meeting with Ron DeSantis, proud to endorse President Trump. That is as big of a slap in the face as it gets. And at this current point, guys, Trump is absolutely wiping the floor with DeSantis in Florida. Put this up there. Vern Buchanan, late last night, that's what I alluded to, is now the 8th Republican to endorse Trump.
8th Florida Republican
to endorse Trump one day after DeSantis visited Capitol Hill to speak with GOP elected officials. I don't know what more evidence that people need. Not only just in terms of the voters, but also in terms of his hold on the institutional GOP.
Well, here's the thing. These people, none of them has a courageous bone in their body. They're
just
all
like,
finger in the wind, right? Every one of them. I mean, think back to right after the midterms, when DeSantis has this big night in Florida, wins easily. It's the only state in the country where Republicans do really, really well, New York being, secondary to that. And Trump, looked like his candidates didn't do well. He had a whole stench around him. And he announces right after that. And even Matt Gaetz couldn't find it in his heart to make his way to Trump's presidential announcement. You'll recall, apparently there were weather issues. Now, we checked the weather. It was like perfectly sunny here, perfectly sunny down in Florida. But he had to come up with an excuse not to be there. Now you can see they're looking at the polls. They're looking at the mood. They're looking at the landscape that we're looking at, saying, listen, it's going to be Trump-focused media. It's going to be indictments. It's going to be trials. It's going to be, all about Trump's legal quandaries and situation. There is no oxygen left over for anyone, including Ron DeSantis. And then you layer on top of that, you talked about Stubbe and how there was no outrage, which is astonishing to me. I mean, this is someone who is your home state congressional delegation. I'm shocked that they're not buddies. Like, usually that's the way these things work. And then with Vern Buchanan, they note that DeSantis did not come to Buchanan's aid when he was in a fight to chair the Ways and Means Committee earlier this year. It did not go unnoticed. Now, listen. These people are egomaniacs. Should any of this matter? No, it shouldn't. That they're like how much they flatter your ego and, in Bernie's words, like he's not going to call you and wish you happy birthday. That stuff shouldn't matter.
Yeah, but it does.
But it does. Yeah. And if you're playing, DeSantis is really trying to play kind of an inside game. I know they would object to that, but that's the reality of where his support primarily lies. You have to be extra good at this type of just basic blocking and tackling political outreach, exactly for moments like this. So, to make the Bernie contrast, Bernie at least had a big grassroots base going for him. He was truly an outsider. So you might have forgiven him a little bit for not doing the typical political outreach. But even for him, this ended up being a problem for him in terms of the Democratic primary, that he didn't even try to change the dynamic in South Carolina with the elected officials and with Jim Clyburn there in particular. So it's even an issue for a candidate like Bernie Sanders. It's definitely an issue for a candidate like Ron DeSantis, who's trying to play the inside track.
You can only be an outsider whenever you're a guy like Trump, who is independently famous and you have a genuine base of people who support you. Remember, not even, what was it, Jeff Sessions, I think, was the first GOP official to endorse Trump.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a congressman. I forget exactly. But the point was he had no endorsements, but he was winning in the primary. DeSantis is not winning in the primary. So you have to trade it. For him to get endorsements, the reason why I think it's important, especially from the state of Florida, it has to be a united front of, I turn Florida into a dark red state. Every single person from Florida knows that if they cross me, they're going to suffer consequences. Guess what? They all crossed you. Stubby in particular, he didn't even stab you in the back. He stabbed you in the eye. And he didn't care.
Yeah.
And, you know, this also gets to, again, some base political instincts. Let's go think about some of the governors who were elected president and what made them all different and what made them good politicians. How exactly did Governor Bill Clinton from Arkansas, no offense, Arkansas, but let's just say, you know, not the most important state in the union, how did he become the 1992 presidential nominee and eventually become the president? He was a fantastic politician who stayed up until 2 a.m. every single night, calling every state legislator in Arkansas. The whole state was united behind him. After he solidified his control over the state, then he got himself head of like the Democratic Governors Association. He was constantly on a plane, you know, scratching backs and helping fundraise for people in California, people in wherever, all across the country, became a national figure. That way, whenever he ran for president, he not only had name ID, he had institutional backing. That stuff matters whenever you're trying to have more of an upswing campaign. That especially, I think, for a guy like Ron DeSantis, who so many of for DeSantis to get to 51%, he needs to unite the never Trumpers, but also people who like Trump, who might be willing to move on from Trump. There's no evidence, in my opinion, that those people even really exist. But let's say that they do. A key part of that would be getting people with credibility in the base, people like your congressman and other, to go ahead and support him. Doesn't exist yet.
The bottom line is, the Bill Clinton point is a good one because, I mean, put aside his terrible politics and policies, all those things. He was a political savant.
Oh, yeah.
And there was nothing that he was better at. I mean, he was famous for having photographic memory for people's names, their faces, and a little bit of their backstory. So you could see, you know, someone he saw once at some event, he'd see them again, and it's, oh, Susie, how's your son doing? You know, how's Kansas or whatever. I mean, it would have these few little details like a Rolodex in his brain. And so what that meant, all of that outreach and all of that sowing the seeds that he did before his presidential race meant that when he did have a little bit of good fortune in the race, people wanted to come on board. Whereas DeSantis now has the opposite situation. When he's a little bit down, people are looking for the opportunity to stab him in the back. You see this in media all the time, too. Like, you can tell who has been a jerk in terms of, like, media personalities by whose staff is ready to leak on them the minute that they have the opportunity to. It's the same thing with politicians. Like, if you invited someone to your event saying they're going to stand with you and then you don't, that's humiliating for that person. You don't think they're going to be looking for every opportunity to try to stick it to you when they have the chance. And Stubby certainly found his moment here. So, you know, it's an extraordinary just example of how the political winds have shifted, where people clearly think things are going at this point. And it's especially devastating for someone who was thinking that they were going to have a lot of institutional support behind them, and that was really their play in order to win. Clearly that game plan has fallen apart.
Certainly did.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.